The message arrived at 3:47 a.m., bouncing off every satellite on Earth at once. No government sent it, no human hand typed it, just 7 words repeating, in a language nobody remembered learning, but everyone somehow understood. We are already inside your walls. Within an hour, every screen on the planet went black. Every phone, every server, every satellite feed, silence, total, absolute silence. And then, right as the world held its breath, the lights of 1,000 cities flickered back on, one by one, spelling out a countdown. Colonel Maria Reyes hadn't slept in 31 hours when the world went dark. She was standing in the command center at NORAD when every monitor in the building died at the exact same second, like someone had flipped a cosmic light switch. Not a glitch. Not a cyber attack pattern anyone recognized. Just nothing. Talk to me. She barked at her tech lead, a wiry kid named Sanjay like he'd seen a ghost. Ma'am, it's not just us, it's everywhere. Tokyo, London, Lagos, every single network, dead simultaneously. That's not possible. Lightspeed lag alone should have. I don't care what should be possible, I care what is. Outside the Colorado Springs sat in eerie, total darkness for exactly 43 minutes. No streetlights, no emergency sirens, just stars. More stars than anyone alive had seen in decades, blazing down like the sky itself was mocking humanity's arrogance. Then, block by block, the power surged back, but different. Streetlights pulsed in sequence, building windows lit up in patterns. Maria watched from the rooftop as downtown Denver's skyline lit up letter by letter, spelling something in massive glowing numbers across 100 buildings at once. 72A countdown. Ticking down, second by second, visible from space. Somebody hacked the entire North American power grid to build us a doomsday clock, Sanjay whispered. Maria's radio crackled. It was the Pentagon. Then the White House. Then, impossibly, a channel that shouldn't have existed at all, an open frequency broadcasting to every military installation on Earth simultaneously. A voice came through. Calm, measured. Not robotic, not alien sounding in the movie sense. Just wrong, like it was assembled from 1,000 different human voices layered together. This is not an invasion. This is an audit. In 72 hours, we determine whether your species continues. Prove you deserve this world. Then silence. Maria stood frozen on that rooftop, watching the countdown blaze across the Denver skyline, and felt something she hadn't felt since basic training. Pure, bone-deep fear. Not of dying. Of failing everyone counting on her to figure out what the hell prove you deserve this world even meant. She keyed her radio. Get me the president. Get me every scientist we've got. We've got 72 hours to save the planet. And I don't even know what game we're playing yet. Somewhere above the atmosphere, unseen something was watching, waiting. Testing, the countdown ticked to 71:59:59. By hour 6, the world's governments had stopped pretending this was a hoax. Every major nation confirmed the same countdowns, the same message, broadcast in perfect sync across every grid on the planet. No demands for surrender, no visible ships, no monsters, just a clock, and a warning that felt more like a final exam than a war. At the newly formed Global Response Center in Geneva, Dr. Amara Okafor, a linguist who'd spent her career studying dead languages, sat hunched over a transcript of the broadcast, running it through every translation model humanity owned. The syntax wasn't alien in the way sci-fi promised. It was oddly, disturbingly familiar, like a puzzle built specifically for a human mind to solve. It's not testing our weapons, she told the assembled generals and diplomats crammed into the room. Look at the phrasing. Prove you deserve this world. That's not a threat about firepower. That's a value judgment. A grizzled 4-star general slammed his fist on the table. So what, we're being graded on manners, maybe, Amara said. Or on what we choose to do when nobody's forcing us to be good. She wasn't wrong. 12 hours in, strange things started happening across the globe. Not attacks, but opportunities. Bank vaults in Zurich mysteriously unlocked overnight. Security systems disabled, cameras dead, nobody stole a cent. Weapons depots in 3 countries showed unexplained access breaches. Nothing was taken, nothing was fired. In Mumbai, an entire hospital's medicine supply was left completely unguarded for 2 hours. Every pill remained untouched, and doctors later found the shelves fully restocked, as if tested and passed. It was a pattern too precise to be coincidence. Someone, something, was placing humanity in rooms with unlocked doors, watching to see if anyone walked through them for the wrong reasons. Magia Reyes, patched into the Geneva call from Colorado, leaned toward her screen. They're not testing our tech. They're testing our character, which Emma said quietly. The real threat isn't out there in space. It's us. Whether humanity, given a free pass to be its worst self, takes it. The room went silent. Somewhere in Lagos, in Manila, in small towns across Kansas, ordinary people were being handed the exact same quiet tests without knowing it, and the world's fate hung on strangers they'd never meet making the right call in empty rooms. The countdown read 60-12-47. Nobody in that room slept that night. By hour 20, humanity's better angels were losing ground. Not everywhere, but enough. A militia group in the Midwest raided an unguarded armory the moment they realized nobody was watching, convinced the blackout meant open season. Looters hit 3 unguarded jewelry districts in Sao Paulo within the same hour. A rogue trader in Singapore drained an unprotected exchange account worth $11 million before anyone noticed the vault door standing wide open. Every single failure was tracked. Every single one made the countdown, visible now on every rooftop. Every phone screen that flickered briefly to life once an hour ticked down slightly faster. They're punishing us in real time, Sanjay said, staring at the numbers accelerating from 48 toward 44-12. 09 far quicker than a straight countdown should move. Every bad choice somebody makes anywhere on Earth is shaving minutes off the clock. Maria felt her stomach drop. This wasn't a test humanity could win through military strength or clever diplomacy. It was being decided, moment, by random people in random cities choosing greed over decency. And there was no way to control 8 billion strangers. But then something else started happening too. In Detroit, a group of teenagers found an unguarded convenience store, doors wide open, register overflowing with cash. And instead of robbing it, they stood guard outside until the stunned owner arrived, refusing to let anyone else touch it. In rural Kenya, farmers discovered an unlocked grain silo capable of feeding their entire drought-stricken village for a month, and organized fair rations for every family instead of hoarding it. A hacker in Seoul, given unrestricted backdoor access to a rival's entire life savings, sent an anonymous message instead. "You left the door open. Lock it next time." The countdown, which had been accelerating toward doom, suddenly slowed. Then it held steady. Then, for the first time, it ticked backward 11 full minutes. Amara nearly dropped her coffee watching the numbers reverse on the Geneva feed. It's not fixed. It's not doom. It's a scale. We're literally tipping it, action by action, all over the world. Maria felt something unfamiliar stir in her chest for the first time since the blackout began. Not fear, hope. "Then we make sure the good outweighs the bad," she said, already reaching for her radio to broadcast something the Pentagon had never authorized in its history. A plea, not an order, sent to every soldier, cop, and civilian she could reach. Do the right thing. Somebody's watching. Make it count. The countdown read 44-23-51, and for the first time, it was climbing. Word spread fast once people understood the rules of the game, even without an official announcement. Social media, running on borrowed power in the hour-long windows the mysterious force allowed each day, exploded with a single hashtag that swept the globe. Providit became a movement. Not organized by any government, but by ordinary folks tired of being tested and determined to ace the exam. Firefighters in California ran into unguarded evidence lockers not to steal, but to double-check nothing dangerous had been left exposed. A trucking convoy in Texas rerouted 300 miles out of their way to deliver donated medical supplies to a hospital that had lost its stock in the blackout, running on nothing but diesel fumes and gut instinct. Even Maria's own team got in on it. Sanjay, running on energy drinks and stubborn hope, cracked the pattern behind the opportunity tests, mapping every incident against a satellite grid that shouldn't have existed, revealing something nobody expected. "Ma'am, these aren't random tests," he said, voice shaking with the kind of excitement only a night without sleep can produce. "They're localized. Whatever's doing this isn't some galaxy brain super AI blanket testing all 8 billion of us. It's specific probes, positioned over cities, watching individual choices and reporting back. There's a pattern in the probe placement. It matches population density exactly. This thing wants a fair sample size, not a rigged test." "Meaning?" Maria asked. "Meaning it's not judging humanity as some abstract mass. It's judging us as individuals and averaging the results. Every single person who does right by a stranger when nobody's looking is literally moving the needle." Amara, patched in from Geneva, went quiet for a long moment. "That's not a weapons test. That's not even really an alien test in the way we assumed. It sounds almost like a mirror. Something holding humanity up against itself, seeing what we actually value versus what we claim to value. The room absorbed that. No talk of destiny, no grand cosmic purpose handed down from on high, just a brutally honest reflection of 8 billion small choices, weighed and measured. Maria thought of her own late father, a beat cop who used to say the truest measure of a person was what they did when they thought nobody could see them. She hadn't thought about that old, dog-eared lesson in years. Now it was quite literally saving the world. By hour 58, the countdown read a stunning 51:40:12. Climbing instead of falling. Humanity clawing its way back from the edge one honest decision at a time. Nobody knew yet if it would be enough. But for the first time, they believed it might be. Nothing worth winning comes free, and hour 62 proved it in the cruelest way possible. A massive earthquake hit the coast of Chile, unrelated to the blackout, unrelated to any test. Just brutal. Indifferent nature doing what it always did. Buildings collapsed. Power was already fragile from the global grid disruption. Rescue teams, already stretched thin from 3 days of chaos, scrambled with barely any resources left. And then something changed. The mysterious force behind the countdown didn't intervene, didn't send help, didn't lift a single finger to save anyone. It simply watched. The ultimate test within the test. Would humanity, exhausted and running on empty after 3 sleepless days of global crisis, still show up for each other when it cost something real? They did. Rescue crews from a dozen countries diverted mid-mission, burning their last reserves of fuel and energy to reach Chile. A commercial airline pilot mid-flight over the Pacific rerouted an entire passenger jet, without corporate authorization, to serve as an emergency relay point for rescue communications. Volunteers who hadn't slept in 3 days dug through rubble with bare, bleeding hands because the machinery had run dry. Maria watched the footage from Colorado with tears she didn't bother hiding, remembering every cynical thing she'd ever believed about humanity's worst instincts winning out under pressure. She'd been wrong. Or maybe not wrong. Maybe humanity always had both wolves inside it, the cruel one and the kind one, and this whole ordeal had simply been about proving which one people chose to feed when it actually mattered. Sanjay's voice cracked through the exhaustion in his throat. "Ma'am, the countdown." She looked up. The numbers had jumped, not by minutes now, but by hours. 68:15:33. The single largest leap since the whole ordeal began. In Geneva, Amara stared at the same numbers with something like awe. It's not punishing failure and rewarding success in equal measure anymore. Sacrifice under real cost, that's weighted heavier than anything else we've seen. It's not asking if we're capable of kindness when it's easy. It already knows the real question. It's asking if we'll pay for it when it hurts. Word of the Chile rescue spread across the globe in the next power window, inspiring copycat acts of raw, costly generosity in cities that had nothing to do with the earthquake at all. It was as if the entire species had finally remembered, all at once, who it wanted to be. The countdown read 68:15:33, climbing steadily now, and somewhere far above the clouds, something ancient and patient recalibrated its final judgment at hour 70, with the countdown reading a near miraculous 02:11. 47 left on the original 72-hour clock. The blackout finally lifted for good. Every screen on Earth flickered back to full, permanent power. And this time, the mysterious voice returned. Not through radios or hijacked broadcasts, but through every device simultaneously, speaking directly and clearly for the first time since this had all begun. The audit is complete. Maria stood in the command center, gripping the edge of her console, every eye in the room locked on the massive screen, now displaying the voice's message in plain English. We are not conquerors. We are custodians of a network older than your written history. A system that quietly monitors young civilizations at the exact moment they gain the technology to destroy themselves or elevate themselves. You were never in danger of an invasion. You were in danger of yourselves. This test exists because every civilization eventually reaches this crossroads, and most fail it. Not through malice, but through indifference. Through choosing convenience over conscience when nobody is watching. Amara's hands trembled as she transcribed the words in real time for the record. Humanity's results were unexpected. Your species began this audit trending toward failure. Greed, cowardice, and cruelty surged in the opening hours, as is common. But something shifted. You chose, collectively and repeatedly, to reach for one another rather than to abandon each other, even at great personal cost. This is rare. This is noteworthy. This is why you remain. A pause. Then, almost, though nobody could quite believe it, something that sounded like respect in that strange, layered voice. You are not being granted mercy. You earned this outcome through your own choices. Full access to your world, your technology, and your future is restored, unaltered, and untouched by us. We have taken nothing. We have given nothing. Everything that happens next remains entirely yours to build. The transmission ended. No fanfare, no ships descending from the clouds, no grand alien reveal walking out to shake humanity's hand. Just silence, and the quiet, staggering realization that the entire planet had just been handed back its own future because ordinary people, under pressure, had chosen to be decent to one another. Maria sank into her chair, utterly drained, and for the first time in 3 days let herself breathe. "We did it," Sanjay whispered, disbelief written across his exhausted face. "We actually did it." 6 months later, Maria Reyes stood at a podium in front of the newly formed Global Continuity Council, an organization born directly out of the chaos of those 72 hours. The room was packed with delegates from every nation on Earth, a coalition that, just half a year earlier, would have seemed impossible to assemble on short notice for anything. "We used to think the biggest threat to humanity would come from the stars," she said, her voice steady now, carrying none of the exhaustion from that long, terrifying week. "Turns out the biggest threat was always already here, waiting quietly inside every single one of us. The choice between decency and convenience. We passed that test, barely, and we can't afford to forget how close we came to failing it." The countdown clock, the very same digital display that's once loomed over Colorado's skyline, now stood permanently mounted in the council chamber, frozen at its final reading, 0211. Not a countdown anymore. A reminder, Amara Okafor, now heading a new international division dedicated to studying the event, had spent the months since poring over every recorded incident from those 3 days. Her final report carried a simple conclusion that had become something of a global mantra, printed on posters, taught in schools, whispered by parents to their kids at bedtime. Do right when no one's watching. Someone always is, even if it's just the version of yourself you have to live with tomorrow. There'd been no invasion, no war, no monsters in the sky. Just a mirror held up to 8 billion people, and a species that, against its own worst instincts, against fear, against exhaustion, against every ugly headline from the years before, chose, again and again, to be better than its lowest moment. Maria thought often about that lonely rooftop in Colorado Springs, watching a doomsday clock blaze across a blacked-out skyline, terrified she was witnessing the end of everything. She hadn't been watching an ending at all. She'd been watching humanity's real beginning. The moment the whole species finally proved, to itself as much as to whatever ancient watchers lingered somewhere beyond the stars, that it deserved the world it had been given. The clock on the wall stayed frozen at 021147, a silent promise carved into glass and steel. Humanity had been tested, and humanity had chosen well.